Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Amma ba'd.
It's working?
Yeah, it's working.
It was off. Okay.
The Prophet ﷺ told us in the hadith, الدنيا ملعونة ملعون ما فيها إلا ذكر الله وما والاه وعالم ومتعلم. So in this hadith, and this is an introduction to my talk, the Prophet ﷺ told us that this dunya, this world, this life, the first life, is mal'una. And some people translate mal'una as accursed. And this may not be the most accurate translation. La'an in Arabic means to be away from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the definition of la'na, is to be far away from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's certain actions that people do that can take them away from the mercy of Allah. And that is the meaning or the concept of la'na. So here, the Prophet ﷺ is saying that this life is far from the mercy of Allah. And we could see that all the time. People don't deal with each other based on mercy. We deal with each other based on greed, on envy, on selfishness. We doubt you, I doubt you before I trust you. So the concept of mercy is not very apparent, is not very visible. But there is an exception. He said, مَلْعُونٌ مَا فِيهَا إِلَّا ذِكْرَ اللَّهِ. When people start remembering Allah, building a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is when mercy will come. So again, think of this statement. He's saying everything in this life is devoid from mercy except the following. When you mention Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then he said, alim wa muta'allim. A knowledgeable person, someone with knowledge, and someone who's learning. Muta'allim, someone who's trying his best to learn. Why do I say this? Unfortunately, nowadays, the Muslim Ummah has become lazy, learning the religion, learning the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And by this, I don't mean everybody. Of course, we have exceptions. Of course, we have people who still care about the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But these are the minority, unfortunately. And a lot of people even downplay and minimize and belittle the people who seek knowledge and the people who are trying to learn their religion. And they say, why are you wasting time? Are you kidding me? Wasting time to learn the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? There's a beautiful hadith you can find in Sahih Muslim and other sources where the Prophet ﷺ likened the revelation, this knowledge, this light, this guidance to rain. And he said, imagine this rain that falls on earth. Usually, the receiving earth, there are two types, or he said three types of earth, three types of land. The first type of land is the kind of land that absorbs the water, will benefit from the water, and will bring back vegetation, trees. It will benefit everybody. It will transform this knowledge, or rather, this rain, it will transform it into something good. Vegetation, trees, plants, and so forth. He said there's another or second type of land that will contain the water. It will preserve, it will keep the water, so it's not lost. But it will not benefit from it, meaning it will not turn it into something else. But at least it will preserve it. And there's a third type of land that will lose the water. It won't benefit from it. So it's lost in the cracks, it's lost in the earth, and there's no benefit whatsoever. You know what he said then? He said, this is exactly the analogy of the knowledge and the revelation that God has given me. Basically, he's saying there are three types of people. There's one type of people who takes this knowledge, accepts it, understands, and realizes how important this knowledge is, how important this revelation is, they will take it, they will take care of it, and it will benefit them. It will turn them around. They will understand the reasons behind this revelation. They will understand the wisdom of the revelation. And these are usually the people who not only they memorize the Quran, they memorize the Hadith, but they also understand it and they turn it into actions in their daily lives. And then you have another set of people who understands and sees the value of this revelation, but may not be able to understand all of it. But at least they say, well, you know what? I'm going to keep it so other people can benefit from it. And this happened across Islamic history. You have people, for example, the scholars of Hadith. They dedicated their whole life to preserve the tradition so that today we can read in Bukhari and Muslim and Tirmidhi and Nasa'i and Majah and learn exactly what the Prophet ﷺ said. They preserved that whole tradition of the Prophet ﷺ. So we know exactly what he did. In every move, we understand, we know what the Prophet did because of the efforts of these people. So these people preserved this knowledge for the generations to come. But then, he said, the Prophet ﷺ, there's a third type of people like this land who lost all this water. He said, this is the analogy, this is the example of these people who don't care, who don't even value, who don't even understand the revelation. They don't think it is a big deal. And this is why they downplay it. This is why they belittle it and belittle the people who try and learn it. So we don't want to be from these people. There are many, actually, our Islamic history is full of examples of people, scholars, or rather students, who dedicated their lives in order to preserve and understand the revelation and understand this knowledge. And maybe every time I'll mention a couple of examples. Today, quickly, I'll mention the story of Ibn Abbas. Now, Ibn Abbas, he was born 3 years after Hijrah. So he's very young at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And he was a boy when the Prophet was alive, ﷺ. And Ibn Abbas is known to have, or to be one of the most knowledgeable people of the Sahaba. And you say, how come? I mean, he was so young at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet would call him boy, oh boy, ya ghulam. Yet, how come he was one of the most knowledgeable people of the Quran? And the Prophet made a dua for him. He said, "Allimhu ta'wil." Oh Allah, teach him to interpret the Quran. And this is why up till today, when you open many tafsir, many books of commentary on the Quran, you see Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas said this, Ibn Abbas said that. You know what Ibn Abbas used to do? In fact, he made a decision. When the Prophet ﷺ died, he had a friend. He told him, you know what we should do? Now the Prophet died, ﷺ, I'm afraid this knowledge will disappear. This was the concern of Ibn Abbas. This was the worry of Ibn Abbas. You look at some young Muslims today, what is their concern? Are they afraid that this religion will be misunderstood? Are they afraid that this religion will be lost? We know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect the religion. But is it your concern? Is Allah going to protect the religion through you? That is the big deal. This was the concern of Ibn Abbas. So immediately he was thinking, well, the Prophet died, we should preserve the religion. His friend told him, are you kidding me? Look around you, you're a young boy. Look how many companions, he said. All of these companions are older than you, more senior than you, spent more time with the Prophet than you, and they have much more knowledge than you. Why are you wasting your time? Who's going to look at you? Who's going to listen to you? Ibn Abbas ignored this friend. This is not the right type of friend. Someone who discourages you from learning is not the right type of friend. He said, fine, you go your way, I go my way. Ibn Abbas, you know what he used to do? He used to go and wait outside the doors of the companions who had knowledge, who were known to be learned. And he would wait for hours. And then this companion will come out and will find Ibn Abbas at the door and will say, "What are you doing here, O cousin of the Prophet?" He was not just a companion, he was also the cousin of the Prophet. Al-Abbas is the uncle of the Prophet, right? Abdullah bin Abbas is his son. He said, "I came to learn from you." And he would tell him, "Why didn't you tell me? I would have come to your door." Ibn Abbas would say, "No, this is knowledge. I go to knowledge. Knowledge doesn't come to me. I have to go and seek it." Now, Ibn Abbas kept doing this until the companions, these big companions, the senior companions, started to die, one after the other. And before you know it, Ibn Abbas was needed. And Ibn Abbas was sought after. Everybody would come to sit and listen to Ibn Abbas because he gathered the knowledge of all these companions. And the other friend looked at him later and he said, "SubhanAllah, Ibn Abbas was much smarter than me. He was much wiser than me. He had a long vision. He had a strategy. He was not thinking just 1 year from now or 2 years from now. Like you might think, well, who am I? I'm just a small little person in this big community. And mashallah, we have many imams, many so-called scholars and alim. Who am I?" You can do that. But you can be like Ibn Abbas. You don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. You don't know what's going to happen in 10 years. When I was studying, and I'm not a big student, but wallahi, when I was studying, I never thought I was going to give a khutbah or even a lecture. It didn't cross my mind initially. And I never thought that Islam will be in so much need of people who understand it. Until things happened, like, especially after 9/11, and now Islam all of a sudden became a target. In the beginning, before that, nobody cared. Nobody mentioned Islam. Briefly or rarely, Islam was mentioned. In no one's mind, people would think that now Islam is like the most mentioned thing, even in politics. I mean, we have presidential candidates, and most of the time, most of the debates is about Islam. Who would have thought in 5 years or 10 years? This is unbelievable. It's really, you can't really believe it. And the people who've been in this country for a long time know exactly what I'm talking about. So you should have a long-term vision. Don't say, "I'm not needed now." Focus now, put your mind into it. And this is a big blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahi, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose you to serve this religion, this is one of the biggest bounties, biggest favors that you can enjoy in this life. Like I said, some people will come and say, "Why are you wasting time?" Or some people might come and say, "All you have to do is go and study this book." If anyone came to you and told you this, please do me a favor. Don't do it for myself. Do yourself a favor, rather. Don't listen to him. This knowledge, this great knowledge of Islam, is not contained in any book except the Quran. Quran is different because it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you're telling me a book written by a human being, especially a modern person, as someone who's living now or someone who died recently, that such a book will contain all of knowledge? I mean, this is so narrow-minded if somebody said that. Like, you don't have to look at any other book. Just look at this book. Because it's the book of his, maybe his party or his faction or his sect. Knowledge is dispersed in many, many books written by many, many scholars. Don't be narrow-minded. It will kill your knowledge. It will deprive you from many things. It will make you narrow-minded. You become a blind follower. And that's another big illness that this ummah suffered from. Like, I only take knowledge from this man, or this scholar, or this book. There's no such a thing. It is said, even if Imam al-Bukhari did not live, like he did not exist, Islam would not have been harmed. And that is that, to remember that Bukhari or Imam al-Bukhari's book, it is said that it is the most authentic book after the Quran. You can debate that, as up to you. But even if Bukhari did not exist, this Islam would not have been harmed. So don't think that Islam is limited or is restricted to one scholar or to one book or to one imam. Okay. What was I going to talk about? Okay, so now inshallah we'll move quickly to tafsir. And today I'll just make some comments. The idea here is not really to give you a full tafsir or full commentary. Of course, the Quran, as it is said, لا تنقضي عجائبه. It's full of surprises. You could never learn all of Quran. You could study one ayah for all your life, and you're not going to be able to learn all about it. So what I give you here, inshallah, some highlights, just to stimulate your intellect and to maybe think about it differently and to approach the Quran, inshallah, with an open mind. This ayah is mentioned in Surat al-Anbiyaa. It's Surah 21, and the verse is 30, number 30. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Did the non-believer not see the fact that the heavens and earth were ratq, and we'll talk about that. I'm not going to translate it for you because we want to talk about it. فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا. That's the other word I want to focus on. And we made from water, we created from water every living thing. Don't they believe? Don't they believe? Now this ayah is no doubt is one of the ayat that talks about the beginning. In cosmology, they study this, like how the universe came about. How did it all start? Now, this is important because if you look in the history of religion, for example, Christianity for a long time forbade people to look into how the universe started. They thought that this is an area you don't even come close to. People were forbidden. Even scholars were forbidden to talk about that. They said you only talk about how the universe functions, that's fine. But to talk about how the universe began, you cannot touch that. You cannot come close to that. Oh, thank you. We have a demonstration coming up, so somebody, I guess, understood that and brought this here. All right, thank you. In Islam, if you look in the Quran, this was never an issue. And by the way, early, like in the Middle Ages, there was another idea that came especially among Christians. And they were arguing, this is basically the church and the clergy, that you cannot say that this universe has laws. Somehow they thought that by saying that, you are taking the power away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, of course, we all know that everything has laws. Plants, animals, planets, everything is actually guided by laws. Now, of course, in Islam, we say everything has laws, but these laws are created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they are driven and guided by Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us, ثُمَّ هَدَى. After creation, He guided. So what is that? It's not just creation. There was something else after creation, which is this guidance. So every creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is guided through laws. So a law means that something happens the same way every time, if there's the same conditions. When it comes to the beginnings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, قُلْ سِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَانظُرُوا كَيْفَ بَدَأَ الْخَلْقِ. In fact, it is a command to go explore. Go around in the earth. Like go around, don't stay in one place. And explore and look and see and study and examine how the creation began. كَيْفَ بَدَأَ الْخَلْقِ. How all of it began. So actually it's an invitation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to go and study the universe. So there's nothing against that. In fact, there is an encouragement. In fact, it is an order to go and study how it all began. So today, inshallah, and this is a long topic, you can write hundreds of pages about this concept of, and now we have different theories, but the most reliable theory so far is what they call the Big Bang theory. And this kind of explains how the universe came about. So inshallah today I'll just touch upon this ayah, just to give you a glimpse. And one thing I want to say, what I'm going to do here, I'm not going to go into interpretations, like what this scholar said or what this imam said. Because unfortunately, I feel sometimes, especially with this idea of al-i'jaz al-ilmi, the scientific miracles of the Quran, some people go a little too far. They go overboard. They kind of stretch the ayah too much, or they twist the meaning a little bit. I'm not against all of it, but I'm saying sometimes people go a little too far in this idea of wanting to prove these scientific miracles mentioned in the Quran. Again, some of them are absolutely true, but sometimes it's a little bit like people go overboard a little bit. So here in this ayah, I'm not going to try any interpretation. All I'm going to do, inshallah, and I'll leave it up to you, all I'm going to do is tell you the linguistic meaning, and that's it. This is my job. And you go, inshallah, you investigate more if you like, you think more, you ponder more, it's all up to you. Okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in this ayah, and in fact, it is an address to the non-believers. That is interesting. Allah speaking to the non-believers. Could be for different reasons. It could be that in the future, meaning now, right? This was revealed 1400 years ago. That in the future, it was going to be mostly non-Muslims who will make the discoveries, who will be scientifically advanced, as we know today. So subhanAllah, it is an address to the non-believers, specifically. أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. It also could be because these are the people who have to ponder more to arrive to the truth, that Allah exists, that Allah is behind this universe, and that the Quran is true. So it could be for different reasons. But here, there are two things mentioned, two verbs, or two roots, in fact, mastar. السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا. What is رتق? رتق. We don't have any board. No, we can write it. Let's say رتق is R-A-T-Q, رتق, like that. رتق is when you say رتق الثوب, it means to join it together. رتقه يعني خاطه وحكه. It is to join things together. It is to stitch things together and to make it one piece and to condense it. Okay. Now here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say martuq. There's a difference between saying something is martuq and something is ratq. Now you have to pay attention. If you've taken notes, make sure you capture this. If I say that Hassan is adil, Hassan is a just man. It is a description of Hassan. It is an attribute of Hassan. It is an adjective. But if I come and say Hassan adil, Hassan is justice, like justice itself. Which one is more exaggerated, or which one is stronger? Second one. Like he is the embodiment of justice. Right? That is al-mastar. Ratq is the root word. Like all the other words are derived from the root word. So we have adl, and then from it we have adala and adil and ila akhiri. So it is the strongest form of this word. So now, again, this is the linguistic meaning. It's up to you how you interpret it. But here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in the beginning, everything was stitched together so tightly because he's using the exaggerated form of ratq. As if it is so condensed, so dense. And subhanAllah, nowadays we know, according to the Big Bang theory, the universe started as a very small, dense, element or, substance. And then the Big Bang happened and the expansion started to happen in the universe, and it's still expanding up till now. But initially it was so dense and it was such a high pressure, such a high temperature, and such a small little volume, and then expanded. Now here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying Ratq, so that's the number one, or the initial state, that is the initial state. And then he said فَتَقْنَاهُمَا. So we have Ratq and we have Fatq. Fatq is the opposite of Ratq. So Ratq we said is R-A-T-Q, this is F-A-T-Q, Fatq. What is Fataqa? I mean, let me ask people who might know Arabic, what is Fataqa? In the modern language? Separate. And that's why we have this demonstration. So if I did this, like, that is Fatq. Undoing the stitches. Do exactly, yeah. Like this is Fatq, Fataqahu. You say Fataqa thawb, it is to tear the cloth. That is Fataqa. Is to separate. So something, put together very tightly, and you come and you separate the elements. You take it apart. You tear it apart. And things will get away from the center. That is Fataqa. Again, these are the linguistic meanings of Rataqa and Fataqa. And again, I'll leave it up to you, how you want to understand the full picture, but these are the actual words mentioned in the Quran. And subhanAllah, I think this is one of the great miracles in this ayah. And then another big miracle. By the way, this whole passage in Surat al-Anbiyaa, this is in Surat al-Anbiyaa. There's so many proofs in that passage about the creation, about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created things. It has lots of proofs against atheism and the people who deny God, who deny Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So maybe inshallah in the future we'll have other opportunities to study some of those verses. The problem we have today, quickly, is that a lot of people equate atheism with science. And that's such a big problem. You know why? It's not because it is equal. It is because these people who has taken atheism as an ideology, it's no longer like a neutral thing. It's become an ideology. They call to it just like a religion. To them, it is a religion. And they are so fanatic about it, just like the religious people are so fanatic about religion. But the problem is because they're so, they're trying so hard, basically, to spread their ideas, and they try so hard to make the two equivalent. Now people think, and it's just a wrong misconception, it's a misconception, they think that atheism and science are kind of similar, or that atheists are for science and that religious people are not for science. And that's such a big misconception. If you just rely on science alone, I don't think really you can prove either way, that they're right or they're wrong. Just, I'm saying by science alone. Of course, you could use it to prove Islam. You can use it to prove, so you can't say that science proves that atheism is correct. You need something else, like if you don't use logic, for example, you don't use other means, other types of science, science alone is neutral. Could be used by everybody. You have Nobel Prize winners who are believers and other ones who are not believers. So it doesn't prove anything. Oh, he's a big shot, he's a big scientist and he does not believe in God. So what? There are other ones who are big shots and they believe in God. So that alone is not a proof either way. But when you look at logic, for example, the kind of logic that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used in the Quran, and this we should spend more time on in the future. One example is أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ. Very small ayah, very brief ayah. But it has really the key. And we should spend more time with this ayah in the future, like I said. But here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking these people, the deniers, those who deny God, He's asking them, were they created from nothing? without a creator? Or are they the creators? Did they create themselves? Because some people claim the universe created itself. So now, logically speaking, if I came to you and said, this thing came out of nothing, like no one made it, and it came out of nothing. Or I came and said, this thing came from something else, or there was a maker who made it. Which one is more logical? Because like science, like I said, is neutral. It doesn't mind either way. It can explain to you how it came about, but it doesn't mind if there was a God behind it or not. Which one is more logical? That there's a maker. And this is one of the things that we have to pay attention to. Don't mix science with logic. They're two different things. Logic existed way before science. Aristotle was a logic person. He was not a scientist. He made a lot of foolish statements by today's standard. But he was still one of the biggest minds because of his logic, not because of his science. So don't mix up the two. That's an important thing. Anyways, let's go back here. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. We made from water everything that is living, all living things. And again, this is a big topic in science, but it's also one of the beautiful ayat, one of the greatest proofs about the miracle of the Quran. Nowadays, we know that all human beings, are made of water. Like we say, 70% of us is water, of the human body is water. And the babies is even much more. And you look and all types of living things, like plants. Certain plants, most of it is water. Nothing can live without water. And it's about also the features of water. And again, I have to conclude here, but if you go and study the features of water, there's a reason why water specifically was chosen. First of all, it's a liquid, because if you look at gas or if you look at solid, it's not the right medium to produce other things. So the fact that it is liquid and the fact that it is water with all the features, the right boiling temperature, the right qualities of water is really essential for the reproduction, for the production, or for the for it being the source of all living things. So this is again a homework. You can go and study the qualities of water. I may not be the best person to do that, so you can go and do that and realize the fact that water is behind life. So this is another thing to ponder upon. And like I said, the purpose of this halaqah is just to give you some talking points or some ideas to think about, some starters, some pointers, and it's up to you. If you are, inshallah, a student of knowledge, a seeker of knowledge, you'll go after that. We'll take a few minutes as a break, and we'll come back to do the fiqh part, inshallah.